how hard is it to qualify for F1 Esports in 2019? So after the outrageous success of my previous video then, we are going to try it all over again this year. 1 year later, we are going to give it another go. Last year, mainly my video just featured the attempt of Dominic Hoffman, but this year it's going to be all my driving. I have dedicated quite a few hours this week, done quite a lot of grinding just to see how close I can get to qualifying, just to try and prove how hard it is. Hopefully some of you guys will have seen my previous videos. If you haven't, do feel free to go check them out and drop a subscribe. But basically I've become quite an average driver, maybe sort of top 10% of everyone. So still not bad, but with a wheel and with several league racing titles under my belt previously, fairly average really. So yeah, basically I'm going to try and go from being that person to being someone that can potentially qualify for F1 Esports, and these are my attempts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the first lap of each of my successful attempts, and then I'm going to show you the entire run of my final effort to see how close I can get. So this is the very first run, and this is literally within 5 minutes of booting up the game. This is I think I've restarted a couple of times before this, just making silly mistakes. But this is probably my third attempt or something silly. So it's very much me as myself without doing any practice. And as you can see, it's been not a bad lap at all. This is the level I started at. It's not awful. It could certainly be a lot worse, but still, it's not ideal. I'm seeing now obviously with benefit of hindsight, now knowing with all the practice I've done, I can see quite a few mistakes myself. Wondering if you guys can spot them. Let me know down in the comments if what you saw wrong with this first lap. That was that first lap then, and 1 minute 20.9 was my fastest lap on that first particular lap, which as you can see there gives me a 202,000 score, but most importantly 91 minute race, that's the overall race time, and 22, that's the thing we need to concentrate on, 22.1. So started off casual, about 13 seconds off the pace, 13 seconds. So this is the second run then. As you can see, already using a bit more on the track, just running a little bit wide on, missed my apex slightly on the last corner, but using more of the track, using my ERS in the bottom right a little bit more effectively. 22.9 in the first sector, which is pretty good. Back up to low, again, just watching my ERS in the bottom right, just that's evolved. Get it down to second, get it on the curb, and this run already looks a bit better, doesn't it? A little bit of a mistake there though, still running a little bit wide, so it's not perfect, but it does look a little bit more consistent. Using more of the track, I missed my apex completely on my first run on that last corner. This was after about 1 hour, by the way. So this is after my first hour of practice, and this is the result. So that was much better. That last corner there ran hugely wide in my first attempt, 53.2 at the end of the second sector. That's not bad, running very, very wide, but I knew that you could get away with that and not get a penalty through there. You don't actually get a huge advantage by doing that in all honesty, and I generally only did that when I tended to run a little bit wide. I thought, well, I'm going to run off the circuit anyway, so I will accept my fate, and I will basically dive off the circuit. And coming through the final sector now then. And again, pretty good, certainly better than my previous attempt. Looked a bit more consistent, didn't it? And coming to the end of the lap, which will give us a 1 minute 20.739, which is about 2/10 up on my first attempt. So a little improvement on the first lap, but there overall that was a 3-second improvement on my previous time. 91.19.0, about 3 seconds quicker. After about an hour, I found 3 seconds, but still somewhere around 9 to 10 seconds off the best, so hugely off. But anyway, here we go. This is my third attempt. Again, first lap of my third attempt. You can see clearly a bit more confidence again, braking a bit later, using more track. And again, I've evolved my ERS usage once again. Coming to the end of the first set, then we're going to do a 0.9, which is more or less similar to what I did on the last attempt. And also, this is after some sleep, interestingly. So that first hour there was all at once. And this is the next day. This is another hour of practice later. And this is also the following day. So a bit more consistent there, no more oversteer on the exit of that corner. And again, braking a little bit later it seemed, but missed my apex ever so slightly. You want to be all over the curb in that last section there. And you can't quite keep it flat in the first section, using again all the track, no hint of oversteer through there though, as there was on my first attempt. And coming to the end of the second set now, 53.1, so that's a little bit quicker again. That's pretty good. My best through there is something like a 0.8, but of course I'm not able to quite get a perfect run. Just you need to do tens or if not hundreds of hours of practice to get perfect runs. But coming through the third sector, and again, it just looks more solid, doesn't it? I think that's the best word for it, more solid. Certainly a little bit quicker, just carrying a bit more speed, using a bit more of the track, braking a little bit later, all little minor stuff, but it looks more solid, a little more confident, a little more able to handle whatever this track's throwing me at a 1 minute 20.3. So that is clearly shown in the times there. That's about a 3 to 4/10 improvement on the first lap. And there we go, a 91.17.4, which is about another 2 seconds up after another hour of practice. But again, still somewhere in the region of 7 seconds off the best. And this is my final attempt then. This was after yet another hour of practice, and this is, I think, hour 4 or hour 5 or something like that. And this, now we are going to view my entire run. And you see that really solid first sector. And again, I think the key difference really here is just confidence, using more of the track. Again, it's all minor, 0.8, so only very slightly up in the first sector. I found I reached the peak quite early on through there. It's really the middle and third sectors that I was finding time. And in all honesty, I think I could have found more time again in the final sector. I think I was still losing time there. It's quite a technical section, isn't it? And again, evolving my ERS usage, just ran a little bit wide there. Accidentally got wheels on the grass, which cost me a little bit of time. But at my ERS usage there in the bottom right, I tend to go to no deployment now, which does seem to help quite a bit. But I do tend to use quite a bit of ERS in the first couple of laps just to catch Bottas. We'll talk about that in just a moment. 53.0 then after the second sector, I think it's about another 10th up or so on my previous attempt we just saw. And again, though, I'd say it's just looking a bit more solid, isn't it? It's just more confidence. I know there that I knew I could run a little bit wide and I wouldn't get a penalty. I know where I can push it now. And I think, to be honest, I do feel like, you know, beyond the obvious of learning breaking points and just being able to break a bit later, use a bit more track, evolve my gear usage, evolve my ERS usage, those are things that are very obvious, and they do obviously evolve with practice. I'm at 20.2, so about another 10th up on my previous attempt. But I think the key thing really is confidence. I think that's the best word to describe how I managed to improve, is that I could predict what the car was going to do. I could predict what the track was going to do. I knew where I could push my luck with the limits. I knew where I couldn't. I knew what the curb was going to do. I knew what the car was going to do. I knew what certain level of throttle applications were going to do. I knew what the brakes were going to do. I knew what the gears would do. You know, when I shift down, do I shift down to so in this next corner, for example, you'll notice I shift down to third, wait a bit, then shift down to second. So I actually ran a little bit wide in that corner because I braked a bit deep, but that's the key thing, is having absolute confidence and just learning every single bit of this game and knowing exactly what's going to happen before it's going to happen. I believe that's absolutely key. You know, again, that last corner where I went from third down to second, again, if you shift to second too early, the rear starts sliding. You lock up the rear a little bit, and the same thing into this corner. You lock up the rear just a little bit, and it just slides into the corner. You don't want that. You want to be nice and planted through the first part of the corner, and then just be able to get on the throttle nice and confidently on the exit. It also stops your rears from overheating if they're not sliding around. And just come up to back of Bottas then, going very, very close to him, almost pushing him through this final sector, and that is as close as I got to Bottas. I did actually do a whole other hour of practice after this attempt, but wasn't quite able to improve. Again, I managed to improve confidence. I probably could have improved overall my time, but actually after the first 2 laps, this was my best one I ever did. 19.5 then after the second one. Lots and lots of DRS, lots of slipstream on Valtteri Bottas. Going to have to try and go on his outside there. So he was turning a little bit early there. I wanted to try and get around his outside, which I managed to do successfully, but I didn't want to make contact with him because otherwise I potentially would have got a warning, and I knew that this had been a good first couple of laps, and managed to get on the outside of him nicely there. Did certainly cost me a little bit of time having to go on the outside of him, but I did also gain some time with DRS, hence they're almost 2 tenths up. And again, just going back to what I was saying about confidence, again, through this corner, third, then down to second, delay, then back up to third early on the power. Again, knowing how much power I could put on there as well. So I'm up to third gear, then I'm waiting. How much power can I put on? Judging the speed I've got, judging where I'm outside on track, judging my steering angle, how much power can I put on now, and then now, and then now, and now, and you just slowly, obviously, build up the power to get to full power. But it's about knowing exactly what to do at the exact right time. And again, third, then down to second. And actually, I learned later on after this that it's probably better to shift up to third before you get on the power there. I did actually run a little bit wide there. But through here as well, down to third. Again, just delaying that downshift down to third. And the key thing really is, when you downshift, you get better rotation in the car, for those you don't know. You know, the earlier gears you use, the more resistance on the rear wheels, the better rotation you get, basically. I think that's probably quite a bad explanation, but more or less sums it up. I do a 19.0 then, which is my overall best lap, which does go into your final score, so that was important to nail that lap, which I absolutely did, getting about 3 tenths on my best in the final sector there. And yeah, so you want to be as low as gear as possible, but also you don't want to be sliding through the corners, of course. You want good rotation, but without sliding. And little note on setup as well. I probably should have mentioned this before the 9-minute mark of the video, but basically on setup, I put a tweet out. Thanks to the guys that Thanks to the guys that replied, I should say, who gave me their setup and gave me some setup advice. And actually, the setup I ended up using was actually from Fabrizio Donoso, so huge thanks to him. I won't reveal anything in the setup just in case it is a secret one, I'm not too sure, but he did actually send me an exact setup which I have used. So yeah, big thanks to Fab on that one. And yeah, so that setup has remained pretty much consistent. I did trial just running slightly different wings just to see if that would make any sort of difference. But I actually found it maybe a little bit slower, so I did just stick with the exact same setup all throughout to make that nice and fair. So it's a nice and fair test in that respect. The only thing that's changed is my driving for this entire video. And you can see, again, confidence, just pretty solid, aren't I? You know, there's no real mistakes. There's little tiny ones here and there. And actually, after this run, again, I did a whole other hour after this run. And I was aware that the thing I could improve was consistency. You know, I don't think I could have improved the first couple of laps without several more hours practice. Those are pretty solid. But after that, I definitely could have improved my consistency. You know, getting past Bottas a bit more cleanly. And also then just, you know, just having a bit more solid laps. As you saw with that last lap, they're 6/10 off. It is going to be a little bit off. My tyres are starting to wear now. Starting to run out of hers. And also didn't get DRS. So I'm never going to be able to match that 19.0, but you know, I probably could have got a little bit closer. And just for reference as well, so the fastest guy, Fredrik Rasmussen, he was on, I believe his best lap was something like an 18.3 was his best lap, so I'm about 7/10 off that. And he has also got the overall best run, which we will have a look at the leaderboards just after this run. So I am a little way off, no doubt, but the key thing really is I'm off consistency-wise, because again, these guys are putting so many hours on the game, they just can predict what's going to happen before. I know I've said it a lot, but I really do believe that is absolutely key. And that's how you get to the top on these games. You've got to practice. There's no way around it. There's no cheats, there's no tricks, there's no special trick setups, or you know, all that stuff helps. You know, setups does help, but actually it's really all about confidence. It's about knowing what's going to happen before it's going to happen, and then being able to do things based on that. You know, your throttle, your brake, and your steering inputs all based on that. And of course, things like the ERS deployment do help. Again, that's something that's you know, very much got a limit to how good you can be on that. You know, pretty much if you copy someone else, if you copy one of the top guys' ERS deployment, you're probably doing it right. So actually, then you don't need to worry beyond that. So yeah, and that's all I can say really, to give you guys some advice. Is if you are trying to qualify for one of these events, you have now missed it for this year, unfortunately. But if you are going to try to qualify next year, just put the hours in. There's really no way around it. Just put the hours in. Unfortunately, do grind away. Spend, you know, I said I spend about 5 hours or so, but I've also got a lot of experience on previous games, but not a huge amount on these. So just put the hours in, grind away, and just see how close you can get. I really do believe you need to put in tens of hours to be anywhere near the top. You know, if you start from a decent standpoint, you know, knowing all about breaking points, racing lines, and being confident with F1 cars, and even a bit confident on the game, you probably still need to put in, you know, at least 20 hours to get anywhere near the top. If not significantly more, if not more, like 100 or 200 hours. Depends what sort of player you are. I'm quite a sort of natural player in that I just kind of roll with it. You know, I adapt to setups, I adapt to games quite easily, where some people just need a lot more practice. So it really depends, but practice is very much key. As we come along the line then, to cross the line, not sure why I said line twice, but to go in P2, and that is my final attempt at F1 Esports qualification. Then there is confirmation of my score. So of course every single lap was clean. We used no flashbacks, we had all assists off, and the difficulty was on the maximum 110 AI, and there was our best lap and sector times. Here we go then. This is, see, it's fairly consistent actually. If you look at those sort of lap times, I said I wasn't hugely consistent, but I think I could have just pushed a bit harder and been a bit more confident with pushing harder. So anyway then, this is my final standards then. I finished 54th out of 2,588 players. So a long way off. You needed to be top 6 to qualify, but actually some of these guys in the top 6 won't qualify because they don't need to. I think Fredrik Rasmussen, for example, is a Red Bull professional Red Bull Esports driver, so he will not need to qualify. And a few of these other names I recognise as well. I'm not too sure if they're signed or not. But so it might not be in the top 6 there, but I'd say you need definitely an 11. See, the top guy there was on a 9.8. I'd say I was aiming to try and get into the 11s. Ideally the 10s. Getting into the 10s would probably guarantee qualification. Getting into the 11s would have been a possibility. So I needed about another 4 seconds, 4 to 5 seconds off of that time. So about another second per lap. I needed an awful lot of time, but actually, you know, I was only 4 or 5 seconds off. I started, 13 seconds off initially. So actually, I got over halfway there. I gained an awful lot. I ended up in the top sort of 2% or so, I believe it was. So I'm pretty happy with that, actually. I will certainly take that result. And to answer the question that this video asks, it is incredibly hard to qualify for F1 Esports. You need to put in the hours. You need to be incredibly skilled to begin with. You need to know exactly what you're doing. You need to put in the hours to get to practice, to get the confidence, and to almost perfect your driving. And yeah, there we go then. I hope that video kind of does it justice of how hard it is to qualify. Let me know how you guys have got on in your attempts to qualify. And I thank you for watching. Bye-bye.